Motherhood, parenting, and the lies we tell ourselves. Welcome back into Studio 5. So parenting is hard enough, right? Why waste time on techniques and approaches that simply don't work? My next guest is calling out parenting stereotypes you are better off ditching. Studio 5 parenting contributor Heather Johnson joining me. So a lot of things influence our parenting style, but you say these parenting stereotypes should not be one of them.
Yes, they shouldn't. And we're going like down a slippery slope today, so we're gonna kind of stay up top, right? Stay on the surface a little bit, but here's the problem with stereotypes. Stereotypes, one, tend to give us justification as to why we don't have to change or don't have to put in energy or effort in order to do what's best.
It's a crutch.
It's a crutch, and that's no good, right? The other thing is stereotypes tend to put us in a position where we can't actually see what needs to be done. Because we're so focused on the stereotype, we can't see the benefits and blessings and good things that could come when we put energy in the right place.
Like we're thinking it has to be this way, and it really isn't as you're looking at the child in front of you.
It doesn't have to be that way, right? And so it takes out this place where we're actually using our hearts and our own minds and our own intuition, in a sense, to see and offer up what might be best. And they can only take hold to the degree we allow them. So it's this place where we've got to decide, how much do I actually want stereotypes to govern my relationships, to govern my parenting?
Up first, you say do not get caught up in those birth order rules. Now I have to say, in my core family growing up, we fit the birth order description to a T.
Sure, to a T. So here's the thing, and when we're talking birth order, we're talking things like, for example, oldest is what? Bossy, right?
Thanks, Heather.
Right?
Thanks.
That's, hey, I'm an oldest. I'm right there with you, right?
Yeah.
That's me too,
the older
right?
is kind of the red personality, the leader, yeah.
Kind of the guinea pig. Middle, we always hear they were forgotten. Youngest, we hear what? Immediately spoiled,
yeah.
Right? Across the board.
Entitled.
The fact of the matter is, if you want that for your kids, awesome. Create it. But if you don't like it, you don't have to buy into that, right? So a really good place to start is to think, are you comfortable with how you felt in the order you took in your family? And if you're a middle child and you felt forgotten, why in the world would you want to duplicate that again when you raise your own kids, right? If you're an oldest child who felt like there was way too much pressure placed on you because you were the first, why would you want to recreate a situation like that for your own children?
And birth order, by definition, is in the nurture, not in the nature.
It's exactly right. And so we get to decide that. So this one in particular, you know, we use it as a crutch where it's like, oh, they're the youngest, naturally, they're so spoiled. Okay, well, if you don't want that, then change it. Then create an environment where that doesn't take hold in the same fashion.
Up next, you counter a common belief that bribery is bad. So I'll flip the script. When is bribery okay?
Bribery is okay when it's an incentive.
Like
not
the
a
10
bribe.
dumb suckers that are in my purse, where does that fall?
So here's the thing, bribes are not what we're looking to do as far as a parenting practice, naturally. Why? Because bribes lose their power very quickly, right? And bribes teach our children that by doing something bad, they will get something good, right?
Okay.
A bribe usually serves the parent. A bribe is a quick fix. And a bribe usually is not tied to the behavior itself, right? This is, you know, our 2-year-old throwing a fit in the middle of the store.
And mom
and so I promise dum-dums
in my purse. Yeah.
Okay, so mine's ice cream. I promise ice cream, right?
Yeah.
Ice cream has nothing to do with our behavior. Those things do not go together, right?
Gotcha.
Now, an incentive is something that usually is longer term. It has the child's best interest in mind, and it's something that teaches them that good behavior and good effort then produces good outcome.
It's rewarded.
Right, and so it's very different, and it's a natural consequence of it. So for example, maybe a child needs to read a book for school, and it's, if you read the book for school, then you get ice cream. Okay, well, book and ice cream has nothing to do with one another, so now we're bribing them. But if you read, or when that book's finished reading, you get to choose another great book to read, now those things have something to do with one another. And so now we've incentivized them, we've created a distance, which means it's not immediate, it's serving them, and it's teaching them by studying and working hard now, good things come to pass later.
I like that. Parenting styles are different, even from generation to generation, but it seems like the current trend right now is kids come first.
Kids always come first.
Kids come first.
Right?
What are your thoughts on that?
So we're going to switch that, because that is not the case. Kids coming first is this new mentality. Generations ago, parents were much more strict. There was a lot of no's, and kids didn't come first. And now we're in a situation where we put kids above every other relationship, and it teaches them to be entitled. It puts them in a really tricky spot. It's okay to tell a child to wait while you finish doing something. It's okay if they interrupt a conversation with your husband or your spouse to say, let me finish with your dad, and then I can get you that drink of water. It's okay to help them see that other people have needs, that other people have thoughts and ideas and feelings, and that they need to be sensitive to those things too.
This is a big one, and I see this in my own parenting, so I can say that. It's a big one right now.
It's a big one. And remember too, we have other people around us that we're trying to love and have relationships with. And so even with my spouse, if I'm not willing to listen to him because the kids do always come first, I'm sending him a message also, which is you don't have a place here because they are more important. So they don't need to come first. It's okay.
That dovetails into the next parenting stereotype that parents shouldn't say no. I've been told this by a lot of people, my children's age considered, that we should try to avoid the word no.
Absolutely. And we hear it because we're afraid that it's going to do damage to our kids. Now, do we want to parent in a way that's constantly saying no? No, no, we don't. Do we want to look for ways to say yes? Absolutely. We tend to say no when we don't need to. And that's when we want to get rid of it. We tend to say no because we're tired, because we don't want to put in energy or effort, because we don't want to try to understand. That is the wrong reason to use no. But when we need to use the word no to set a limit, it is perfectly all right. There are some things our kids need to know have limits around them. Limits help children feel safe, they help them feel secure, and they help to create the boundaries that help them understand what our family stands for and where we function.
So by that definition, no can be a very positive
Absolutely, and they see it that way. Limits to kids provide safety. It gives them security. And so if that's the situation in which we're using no, absolutely. Sometimes we do need to use that word.
What about parents, Heather, who worry about disagreeing or arguing in front of their children, that will harm them, set them up for conflicting relationships down the road?
And this is a big one, right? We've heard this one for years and years. And what we're going to debunk here is, first and foremost, if we are talking a knockdown, drag out, call names, screaming fight, your kids shouldn't ever see that. And here is why. The way we disagree in front of our children is a model for them so that they understand how to communicate as they grow older. It is so important. But the fact is, they need to understand that two people will disagree on something. And so it's okay for them to see what a disagreement might look like, as long as we can handle it with a couple things in place. One, emotions need to be under check. Two, we should be seeking to understand much more than be understood. Three, they need to see it come to fruition. They need to see us work through and come all the way around the other side.
The resolution.
The resolution of it. But when they can sit in front of us and they can see that this has nothing to do with how we love one another, but instead we're simply trying to figure out this thing that we don't see eye to eye on and our emotions in check, we've now taught them how to be adults who deal with conflict, right? Because what we're seeing is, if it's not modeled for our children, then they find themselves in their own relationships. They don't know how to deal with conflict. They don't know what to do when they disagree. So someone, withdraws, or someone fights, or someone yells, instead of being able to see, hey, wait a second, disagreements are normal. I've seen it done. I've seen this done beautifully in a very healthy way.
I love
and so there's room for that, as long as you keep those things in mind.
I love this, Heather, as always. Thank you so much. Heather has a private practice where she helps couples and families. You can find her information on the Studio 5 website.